Sterling Vintner's Collection is a brand that was an offshoot from Sterling. It was developed just over 10 years ago, and it was specifically targeted to source fruit on the Central Coast, where we know that they could get fantastic fruit at good prices and produce good value wine, very, very high quality. The brand has grown and grown over the years. We produce about 1 million cases a year, so it's quite a substantial volume. But I think the key to it is that we're really aiming to produce wines that are quite elegant and they're fruit forward and they have a broad appeal, but they're also affordable, and they can be everyday wines or they can be special occasion wines. I absolutely believe, like most winemakers do, that the wines are made in the vineyard. And so sourcing from the correct vineyards and getting the timing of harvest right is absolutely critical to making good wine. What we do in the wineries is really just 10%, and 90% of the wine's quality is made in the vineyards. We source our fruit from a bunch of really great vineyards all over the Central Coast, from Santa Barbara in the south all the way up to San Benito County in the north. Really, the Central Coast covers all of the basins, and we have everything that we need is grown here to produce the wines for Sterling Vintner's Collection.
Right now, we're at Paris Valley Vineyard that's just south of King City in Monterey County. It's a little over 1,100 acres total. This is one of our estate vineyards for Sterling Vintner's Collection and one of the main sourcing areas for Sterling Vintner's Collection. It's really paramount to the supply of Sterling Vintner's Collection because it hosts so many varietals.
We do Sauvignon Blanc there, and Chardonnay, and Merlot and Cabernet, and a little bit of Malbec for the reds. It's an area where you get really nice warm daytime temperatures during summer, but it does cool off during the evenings, again because of that coastal influence that blows down from the Monterey Bay. You get this really vibrant fruit character in the grapes, whether they're white or red. Red Hills Vineyard is one of the jewels in the crown of the Cabernet Sauvignon that I get for Sterling Vintner's Collection. The name Red Hills comes from the color of the dirt. It's a very well-drained sandy loam. There's a little bit of ferrous oxide in the soil that gives it a slightly red tinge, which is quite distinct for this area. What I really love about the fruit from this area, and from this vineyard in particular, is that when it's ripe, the Cabernet has very upfront, fruit-forward berry characteristics that really pop in the mouth. Red Hills really does provide me with the best Cabernet Sauvignon that I get for this brand.
Specifically to Paso Robles and this warmer region of the Central Coast, the ocean really plays a big part because we're a little bit inland. We're about 33 miles inland, and as it heats up during the day, we get above 90 degrees. Really start to think it's hot. The vines are beginning to shut down, and then here comes the ocean breezes straight off of the coast and through the Templeton Gap. So while we'll begin to kiss 100 degrees, this nice wind comes up and cools things down. And the vine doesn't shut down, it continues toward maturity, and we get flavor and color out of it.
Edna Ranch is another, I guess you could say, jewel in the crown for us, because that's where I get most of the Pinot Noir from my SVC program. And it's very well known as being a premium Chardonnay and Pinot Noir producing region. I get access to some of the best vineyards in California, I believe, to make some of the better wines. It's really exciting for me.
Sustainability in the vineyard is something that we find very important. Sustainability specific that we do in the vineyard is use of our falconer rather than bird netting. So we're not covering ground with a tractor and utilizing diesel fuel. We're using very natural defense toward birds and any kind of pests that come in.
I've been doing this for professionally 15 years now. In order to become a falconer, you go through a government 2-year apprenticeship, and then you're allowed to have a real falcon. Cassius is 8 years old. He loves his job, as I love flying him. Our job is to fly and chase away the pesky birds that eat or cause damage to the grapes. Cassius, I let him fly anywhere from a half an hour to 3 hours.
Tom Savory, our falconer, saves us hundreds of tons per year on grapes that would just get eaten.
Sterling Vintner's Collection, we really take a lot of pride in the fact that it's a large brand but made, in a small winemaker's style. All of the red wines that are made for Sterling Vintner's Collection go to barrel for between 6 months to up to 18 months for some of the Cabernet. We do a lot of Chardonnay fermentation in barrel. So I have a barrel fermentation of Chardonnay, and it's just about to go dry, which means the sugar is fermented out of it. It was picked down in the Edna Valley. It's basically just going through its primary fermentation. The yeast fermentation stage is just about finished. It's still got a little bit of sugar left in it, but it's clean, and that's what I'm mainly looking for at this stage. It's going to have about 6 to 8 months in barrel, and then it'll be pumped out of barrel and blended together and finished in the middle of the year. A few months after that, it'll be on the shelves. Really, it's boutique winemaking on a large scale. This kind of price point, that's really something that I'm very, very proud of. In all honesty, the favorite part of my job is harvest.
We really just have one day to get it right for the wine.
It's hectic, it can be full on, and it can be stressful, but for the most part, this is where you see the culmination of a year's work in the vineyards coming to fruition. And all of the hard work that all of the vineyard people have put in to getting these grapes just right. And everybody has their fingers crossed and they're holding their breath that the weather stays good.
We're weather watchers. We're actually trying to predict what Mother Nature's about to give us so that we can pick on that right day.
We're about 3 weeks off harvest. What I'm looking for with these grapes is that the skin tannins have softened, that the seeds are not green any longer, that they're nice and brown and ripe, that the sugar overwhelms the acidity in the grapes. We're just about there. We need about another 3 weeks of warm weather, and this should be making some of the best Cabernet Sauvignon, I think, on the Central Coast. I'm a big advocate for machine harvested fruit. It's all about, the vineyard management and keeping the fruit in good condition. And if you use modern harvesters, which we do, you can have extremely high quality fruit delivered to the winery. There's no issues with quality whatsoever.
We're getting a whole berry harvest method. The rachis and the stems stay on the vine. Only the berry comes off. Whereas with a hand harvest, the whole cluster is taken off and we have to destem at the winery.
We're right in the middle of the harvest at Paris Ranch Vineyards. Our pull-on harvesters could harvest anywhere between 100 and 150 tons per night shift. That translates to equivalent of just under 10,000 cases per shift.
We can pick at the optimal time for quality, and then we can get it to the winery overnight. So when the winery opens in the morning, the very first thing, we're optimizing the quality because nothing is sitting around. It's going straight from vineyard to winery to crush.
This is where all of the barrels for Sterling Vintner's collection are housed. And at the moment I currently have about 30,000 barrels for the program. About a quarter of those are used for Chardonnay barrel fermentations, and the rest are for maturing red wines. When you add it all up, there's enough red wine storage capacity in these barrels for around about 400,000 cases of wine. I feel very lucky as the winemaker for this brand in that we mature most of the wines in barrel. That's a luxury that not many winemakers have for a brand of this size. I was born in New Zealand and my family still lives in New Zealand. I'm a New Zealander at heart. I'm married to an American and I live here and we have 2 kids here. As a child I was lucky enough to live in Papua New Guinea when I was really young, and then later on I started high school in Chile where we lived for 4 years. The culture of wine is a big part of the Chilean social fabric. To become exposed to that at a young age really got me interested in wine. I went back to New Zealand and did a business degree, and then I followed that up with a postgraduate in winemaking and viticulture.
I'm a 3rd-generation California farmer. I grew up in the vineyards, working every single day. I've grown grapes for almost 20 years now, and I've worked for Diageo for 11 years as a grower relations manager. You know what I love about my job? This. I get to drive around in these vineyards every day.
For Sterling Vintner's collection, Cabernet Sauvignon is one of the larger varietals that I make. There's 10 of them altogether, but the Cabernet makes up about 250,000 cases out of the million. When it's ripe, it's very fruit forward. We get a little bit of a jammy character, with nice fine-grained tannins and a nice depth and richness to the wines. So really it's quite distinctive to this area, and it makes really great Cabernet Sauvignon. The Pinot Noir from my SVC program. It's very high quality. It's the kind of Pinot that I want to make. It's got that nice kind of lush, velvety texture, very fruit forward, with some nice complexity as well, some earthy notes, and a little bit of minerality. The wines are bright and they're lively. The whites are fresh and fruit driven. And that's really what I'm looking for the Sterling Vintner's collection. I'm creating wines that have a broad appeal, that are very finely structured, and they're good to drink on their own. They're good to drink with a meal. They really cover all the bases and really cover most of the wine consumers out there. Given the success of Sterling Vintner's collection over the last 10 years or so, and the fact that we've managed to really get the wines across all of the US. They have a really broad base of consumption. Everybody that works for the brand, whether it's in the wineries or in sales and marketing up in Napa, they're all aware of that, and we're very proud as a company to have a brand like this.
As always, please enjoy our wines responsibly.